Hello, my fellow geeks. Welcome to another brand new edition of the Indian AvGeek. You are listening to Vishal Mehra. Today, we are joined by a man who doesn't just talk about airport growth. He's literally building runways for the future. Meet Pradeep Panicker, the president and CEO of GMR Hyderabad International Airport, a leader who's seen more takeoffs and landings than your average flight tracker app. Under his watch, Hyderabad Airport is racing towards a jaw dropping 50 million passengers by 2031 and expanding cargo capacity faster than you can say Red Sea disruption. All right, welcome to the Indian App Geek, Pradeep.
Hi, Vishal. Great to meet you.
How did you get into the business? Your background is in finance. What led you to joining the aviation industry?
If you recollect, Vishal, there was no private play in the airport sector. I think all the way up to perhaps the first real public-private partnership actually happened at Hyderabad Airport and Bangalore Airport. Prior to this, what was actually happening was uh, the the public-private partnership piece was happening in other industries, maybe power, road. These were the kind of areas in which that was happening. So I had the experience of actually working in the public-private space on the road sector. And when the GMR group was looking to build a team to bid for the Delhi and Mumbai airport, they did reach out to me, and I came in as I was leading the bid for the Delhi and Bombay airport piece. That's in 2004 to 2006. So that's how I entered the aviation space.
So you entered as an outside expert and then stayed with GMR?
Yeah. So now I think this is my 21st year running, so it's been a long tenure. So now, in a way, I have become an expert trained within the GMR group.
You were part of the Delhi airport team before arriving at Hyderabad. Did that experience help in any way?
No, if you're talking about my current role,
Yes.
the entire experience what I've gained over the period within the GMR group actually did help me take this new role. But I mean, if you see, I have been in the aviation business, as I told you, for the last 21 years now. So each day is a new experience, and I do keep learning even now. So it's been a very exciting journey.
Hyderabad has been doing phenomenally well. The passenger traffic is supposed to go up to 50 million by 2031 from 29 million in financial year 2025. You're growing almost at 15% year on year. What's your secret sauce to this incredible growth?
I think one element which is contributing to growth in this market, India per se, is that we are currently a market where the per capita consumption for flights is very low, one of the lowest perhaps in the world. So there's a huge latent demand, and actually the percentage of people flying in India maybe 6 to 7 or 8, maximum 8. That's a number which they keep talking about. Whereas globally, this number is significantly higher. Even in China, this number is higher. So what we are saying is there is a lot of headroom for growth, which is very visible. Therefore, the growth is bound to happen. Having said that, Hyderabad has grown faster than its peers in this group, primarily because Hyderabad has been also focusing on what you call the inorganic element of growth. The organic element of growth is naturally the ability for the passengers to consume. I mean, more and more people will come into the flying mode, and also the rise in the per capita income. But the inorganic growth primarily is uh, we are trying to get in transfer growth, transfer passenger growth, which was originally not part of the. I mean, the person who's traveling via Hyderabad, not into or out of Hyderabad. So via Hyderabad is when passengers, say from Madurai, wants to go to Chandigarh or wants to go to Srinagar. They may not have a direct flight from Madurai all the way to these destinations. So they naturally come, they require a via point, and that's a transfer point. And that Hyderabad has actually been fulfilling greatly. primarily because of its single terminal facility and very good transfer facilities we have created. So this is how we have significantly increased our inorganic growth. So almost 27% of the Hyderabad traffic today is transfer passengers. So that is the growth. If you, I mean, just to recollect, maybe say 6 or 7 years back, this number was around 8 to 9%. So there, we have focused on the growth of on transfer passenger, and that has significantly enhanced our total pie of the passengers which you're looking at.
And how will the infrastructure be scaled up to meet future demands?
So, one thing is that we had created this airport. If you recollect, I mean, this is a phase 2 of the project. The phase 1 of the project was at the time when we just before it was a greenfield airport, and it got completed in 2008 when we commissioned the airport. And at that juncture, we had designed for a 12 million terminal capacity, and the total area was 120,000 square meters. Today, we have increased the total area to 380,000 square meters. We have also, in that 120,000 square meters, which is originally supposed to handle 12 million passengers, we have handled close to 16 million passengers. So we are able to sweat the asset by balancing the peaks and various other things and making some minor tweaks here and there. So as we speak, this terminal was supposed to be originally designed for 34 million passengers per annum. But we have already tweaked a bit of it and balanced the peaks, already looking at a 40 million capacity in this terminal. And as we speak, we are looking at getting more studies done to see can we get more out of this asset. So sweating of an asset is one very important element. How do we increase the capacity throughput without that? Because every time we create infrastructure, someone has to pay for it. Either, I mean, it's the passenger or the airline, which is not the most optimal solution. So we always look at sweating the asset so that we can get more out of the asset, which will help in retaining the charges at a reasonable level. So that's something which we work on, and that's something which we'll continue to do. Having said that, yes, you're right. Even, I mean, if you're looking at 2031, we're looking at 50 million. If this terminal does go even up to 50 million, we will require another terminal, another runway. So there is a need for us to already look at in another phase of expansion. We are looking at our northern precinct. Right now, out of the 5,500 acres of land we have only developed the southern precinct, which is close to about 2,500 odd acres. Another 2,500 odd acres is there in the northern precinct, which is also available for expansion. We are in the process of appointing a master planning consultant to plan out the entire, saturation capacity of the airport. As and when that is done, and we most likely will start construction in FY 27-28 for the next phase of construction, so that it is ready by 3031 to accommodate the additional traffic which is likely to come in.
That actually brings me to something I keep hearing about. Maybe you can share some more details about the sensory experience model implemented at the Hyderabad airport, and how has passenger feedback shaped an initiative like this?
Yeah, so we follow what's called the five senses model. That is, sight, smell, taste, touch, and the sound. So the basically what we look at is, we try to give each of these senses a very calming impact. So one of the thing which we incorporated in our terminal is the welcome fragrance. As you enter the terminal, you get relaxed by getting the very soothing, essence which is actually floating out in the air, which will tend to relax you. That's something which we work on. Second is we have a curated music, instrumental music, which is goes all the way around, where we look at. And based on the time of the day, the music is different, and its instrumental music should be non-intrusive. That's what we are trying to look at, and that helps to again relax the passenger as they go along. The one other thing with respect to touch, which we look at, is basically we have got in therapy dogs, and these also tend to give a sense of. There are people who may be interested in touching these therapy dogs. They tend to relax you a lot also, and We have also been looking at creating art installations as and where it's possible. We are slowly increasing that. This gives a visual impact, and also during the festive season, we tend to bring in a lot of decor, which is very relevant with the festival which we are celebrating. So in addition to this, we also started what's called the yoga room, which is basically more for the people who are interested in doing yoga. And these are things which we have incorporated as different touch points. We also have a children's play area which we have just created. So these are some aspects which we bring in primarily to tend to give a very relaxed environment for the passenger when they're traveling, because traveling can be stressful, and we want to make it as comfortable as possible. And there are, of course, our airport has over the years been rated one of the best in terms of the comfort the employees give. One of our employees, I have even recently we just got the Skytrax Award for South Asia and India as the most friendly staff. So that's something which we again work on to give that experience to the traveler. So these are elements which we have incorporated. There is, of course, other touchless technologies which are also there. DigiYatra, you're aware of, it is being incorporated in various airports, and we were one of the pioneers in this particular space. Again, the immigration, the government have actually come through what's called the FT, the known passenger program. There also we have recently inaugurated four access gates, both in international and in departure and arrival. And we have close to 100 passengers who are using this facility on a daily basis. Then we do also have smart trolleys, which we were, I think you would have perhaps seen. It had gone viral when Mahendra had tweeted on this. Primarily, these were trolleys which will guide you to the gate. If you do, scan your boarding pass, and it gives you a lot of information on the way. Where are the toilets? Where is the spa? Where is your yoga room? Where is the other facility which you want to go to? So that's something which we did as a POC. We are now rolling it out in a bigger way shortly. And there are other things like buggies, express security lanes, and constantly we keep listening to the passengers. So that's something which we do. We have what's called an airport predictive operation control center, which mans and keeps the ears to the ground with respect to what is the passenger talking about, what is the people talking about. Generally, if there are tweets and all, we tend to respond within. I mean, the cap which we have put on the team is not more than 10 minutes, but our average response time is around 2 minutes. So that's something which we keep looking at, so that we are not only we also are sensing what's happening, so that we are on top of the game.
On that, not just for airports, but also for airlines and other players in the ecosystem, the younger traveler is of immense interest, right? Their usage behavior also differs from other cohorts. How are you, as an airport, adapting yourself to the younger consumer?
So one very critical element, or the important element for the young traveler, is the food and the variety and the options of food which is available. That's something which we have developed, and we have curated a menu which caters to all kind of people. I mean, we have from the typical millets to different kind of other things like vegan, so many other things which we have developed, which perhaps is one thing which we look at catering to the separate requirement of the youngsters. Even our retail outlets do offer different products which are actually more in tune with the young crowd. So this is something which we do on the retail and the commercial side. Then we have, for the very very young crowd, we also look at the play areas for the kids of the people, young parents also. So that's something which we are working on. We are also having, for example, the lounges and all, we have some other spaces we have created where it is possible for families also to use rooms. Family rooms are also available. So these are some things which we have worked on, so that we constantly take care of what is in the mind of the youngsters. And of course, as I told you earlier, the the baggage trolley. These are all electronic things which are there. We are bringing in electronic to the fore, or the technology to the fore, which will tend to even app, which I talked about, the HOI app and all, which you developed, is primarily aimed at the younger generation who are actually more tech savvy and are perhaps more demanding with respect to variety and options of food, which is and the the retail outlet offerings.
You were just mentioning how Hyderabad Airport had pioneered Digiyatra. Do you see if that can be expanded to international passengers also? What kind of challenges do you foresee in rolling it out?
So, Digi primarily is current being only done for the domestic passengers, and today 24 airports within India have implemented Digi. So, it's a seamless one-stop solution, which is further being expanded by the government of India. So, it becomes so much more easier once you're registered for people to travel from various airports. Now, having said that, on the international side, it is not that easy because, first and foremost, the requirement is that when you are actually traveling international, you need to first report to the check-in counter of the airline because you can't do an online check-in, and the airline would like to see your visa, verify your visa before they actually give you the boarding pass. So that's something which they do because they are responsible to ensure that people, I mean, there have been instances where people have actually tried to sneak into a country without the proper travel documents. So naturally, it is a cumbersome process, and it's a significant penalties are imposed on airlines. So therefore, airlines are not very comfortable as we speak on this. Having said that, there is a move among the international airline community where visas can be also checked prior to the passenger arriving to the terminal. As and when that does happen, it is possible that even the Digiyatra will gradually get spread to the international. It's a matter of that particular piece falling in place. And with the trusted traveler program of immigration, there could be a day when a passenger is completely walking paperless through the entire terminal all the way up to the gate. It is possible, but it may take some time.
Pradeep, what are the key factors that are considered by you, your team, to identify new international routes? And how do you collaborate with airlines to make them viable?
So, before any route is actually looked at, we need to see is there a demand for that. And the demand assessment for any particular route comes from data. The data is there. There are various software packages, or packages like IATA Airport IAS is there, which gives us data with respect to is there a demand for a particular route even before it is started. So we do look at that, and that data helps us to identify which are the routes which we require to trace and follow up. So that's how we do the bit of working. Having said that, there have been instances where we have been able to uh, visualize basically a latent demand, which is not visible on the paper, and cajole airlines, and they have started. For example, I'll tell you Sri Lankan. When we looked at Sri Lankan, Sri Lanka was not a point of call, and there were hardly, as per the data, 13 or 14 passengers going on a day into Sri Lanka. So when we approached Sri Lankan airline, this is almost 10 years back, they first said you don't have passengers coming into Sri Lanka, and it will not make sense for us to put the flight. And at that during it is during those times where Indian carriers were actually not that gung ho into international, and others were not big. Indigo was not also so much into international. So we finally managed to convince Sri Lankan to start with three narrow body flights a week. And Hyderabad being Hyderabad, we all of a sudden saw a growing interest into Sri Lanka to travel into Sri Lanka for tourism. And within a matter of, I think, 1 month or so, they had to make it five flights a week because all their flights were going full. And then they made it seven flights a week. Every day they had flights in just about 3 months' time. And even that was not enough. Then they had to increase the size of the aircraft. They were brought in wide body on particular dates to fill up and take it. So that is the kind of demand a young city, young population can create if a new route is offered. So that's something which we do talk to airlines and we do demonstrate. This is what happened. This all happened pre-COVID, and interestingly, Sri Lankan was thinking that many of the passengers were actually going to travel to Colombo would be transit passengers or transfer passengers who may want to go to some other destinations in either Southeast Asia or into Australia. But interestingly, 80% of the passengers actually were going for tourism into Sri Lanka. So this is something which uh, changed the entire way, the perspective on Hyderabad and the population and the demand which was coming out was there. So this is a case which we present to various airlines as and when we do meet them and explain. So if that country which we are looking at does have a tourist potential, for example, now we recently launched flights to Phuket. We have also launched flights to Vietnam. So there are flights which are likely to happen in this particular aspect. Similarly, we have also, I mean, just likely to start flights to Ethiopia. I mean, in June, coming June, and then possibly KLM is also going to fly in possibly September. So these are all routes which have materialized over a period of time, given the demand which we were able to demonstrate and or the latent demand. So in the case of Ethiopia, of course, there are a lot of student traffic who comes into Hyderabad, also medical tourism. So there are things which have actually again triggered. Similarly, KLM is looking at, because there's a growing demand for US and into Europe. So that naturally that's something which they're looking at. So there is, for each particular airline we approach, there's a different pitch which we make based on what is the demand and the requirement. So that's roughly how we go about doing our airline marketing and piece of it.
That's super fascinating. You mentioned how initially the airline wasn't seeing much demand, but from an airport point of view, you saw latent demand, right? How did you figure that out? What were the indicators that made you think, whoa, wait a minute, there's definitely an opportunity for Sri Lankan there?
So what happens is we do look at, say, any particular route is there. The tourist, outbound tourist routes out of Hyderabad have done well, and there is a demand. So that's something which we figured out, and mainly youngsters who travel, and it's a family vacation out of Hyderabad. So that's something which we found out. Into Thailand, we were seeing a lot of people going, and the other holiday destinations they were doing pretty well. So from that, we figured out that this is a point which we could market, and therefore we keep looking at bringing in that.
Is the process similar for domestic routes also, for new city pairs to be opened?
Quite similar thing happened with Varanasi. When we started the flight for Varanasi, SpiceJet was not too keen to start the flight, and we had to again cajole them. And this agreed to put in a flight for one flight a day initially, and the numbers just went through the roof, and the yield went up very high. And Indigo saw the opportunity. Indigo decided to put in a flight. We were a bit apprehensive with two flights coming in quick succession. Maybe both the flights will tend to become bad. But Indigo went from strength to strength, further increased frequency 2 to 3, I think. And at that time, SpiceJet continued at that juncture. I'm talking, this is quite some time back. So very clearly, many a times the flight, if you put signs of simulated demand, which perhaps was not visible. So that's something which we keep doing. And the way we look at it, we also know, the passengers from where they're coming. For example, one focus point now which we are looking at is Northeast. A lot of the people working in Hyderabad are coming from either in the hospitality or in the medical field is coming from Northeast. So that's something which we are looking at, again, increasing our connectivity to. Otherwise, we are connected significantly almost to many destinations, almost 74 destinations we are already connected. And we would be looking at unconnected destinations and seeing is there a potential. So that's how we look at for the domestic piece.
You were talking about cajoling your airline partners. Is it just traffic data or something else also that comes into play?
No, no. When we make a pitch for the entire, maybe we have to talk about the state, we have to talk about the state of economy of the state, and the tourist attractions and what are the things which is there, how does it happen, what are industries coming, and all those kind of things we do need to talk about a destination. Then, supposing if you're talking about international flights coming in, how Hyderabad is the center of India, how the better connectivity, how can you provide connectivity to other destinations from India. So these are kind of things which we have to talk about. So we do talk about various aspects about our features. I mean, in terms of a single terminal. And how the hubbing can happen here fast. So there are many things we pitch when we talk about, and those things finally uh, convince the airline that there is a potential for them to fly into Hyderabad. So that's how it works out.
Got it. VietJet has just started operations from your airport. We were talking about Ethiopian and KLM as well, starting in September. Which other international airlines are you talking to as far as your airport marketing team is concerned?
So as we speak, these are the ones which are there immediately. We are also, I mean, significantly looking at our own Indian carriers to increase their connectivity as there are more and more aircrafts are coming in. And we do talk to almost all the airlines. I mean, the routes conference, if you go, we go with a list of 25 or 30 different airlines and we try to meet them up and talk to each one of them on the potential. It is sometimes some of the routes may take 3 years, 4 years to, I mean, uh, become reality. So that's how it takes time. It's not such an easy exercise because even if an airline is convinced that there is a demand, it really has to prioritize and get the aircraft. Whenever the new aircraft is allocated to or comes into their fleet is when they start looking at it. So there are a lot of pros and cons which go behind the picture. So there are many airlines we are looking at. We have there are destinations which have significant passengers. For example, US. US is a destination we have almost 1.2 million passengers who in a year which is going. Just to give you a sense of what it means, 1.2 million passengers, it is like four wide body, which is about 300, 320, 30 people traveling on one flight, can fly out of Hyderabad into US and come from US into Hyderabad. That is the total potential of traffic out of Hyderabad. But we don't have a direct flight, primarily two reasons for that. One is the Indian carriers don't have the capacity to, fly into USA except for Air India, but Air India doesn't have enough equipment. So the number of equipments are limited. So they are focusing on their hub stations today. And Indigo is just acquiring wide body aircraft, so they don't have wide body aircraft to that extent today. Having said that, the US carriers are unable to connect into Hyderabad primarily because of the Ukraine Russia conflict, which is ongoing today. Therefore, these flights which have to come from USA were all polar flights, and the polar route is now blocked for them. If they have to via the Atlantic or the Pacific, they will be payload penalties, which could result in 100 seats flying vacant, which will not be a viable flight. So therefore, US is a flight which may happen gradually over a period of time. Similarly, we have other destinations also where there is enough data. At least a significant number of passengers who are actually from this region, that is the Telangana Andhra region, who have settled down in US and similar other countries. So we have data, and that will be something which will materialize over the period.
I was speaking to Sataki from Bangalore some time back on the podcast, and he was echoing this, especially for US based airlines unable to serve Bangalore currently due to closure of Russian airspace. Hopefully, it will lead to more expansion in future. From a Hyderabad point of view, I'm sure you would want some of those XLRs also coming in, when those come in for Indigo, to be based out of Hyderabad and serve some untapped markets.
Sure, sure.
You were talking about how you have to present tourism data to your prospective airline partners. How do you work with tourism boards or trade associations or government entities to promote Hyderabad as a destination for new routes? Is there an active role that an airport is supposed to play in all of this?
So, uh, actually, if you note, the Telangana region per se has not been a major tourist attractor from the perspective of tourism coming into India. Primarily, the Golden Triangle and Goa, Kerala. These are the regions which have attracted. Other states are now trying to jump onto the bandwagon. It will take some time before they do really start attracting tourists. Having said that, I'm a big fan of the kind of cultural heritage we have in our country. Any part of India has much more to offer than many of the foreign destinations which are really hyped. So that's something. It's a matter of not being able to really create that marketing pitch for and explaining. And perhaps one very important thing is that, when people travel, they require basic things like, good accommodation, toilets everywhere, safety. So these are things which are, slowly getting inculcated, built, and that culture has to be brought in. So having said that, even the government of Telangana is looking at promoting tourism in a big way. And we do work closely with the tourism department to see how do we also evolve and develop products. They have identified various destinations within the state which are interesting. And we do try to give in what our inputs also on those policies and all. How can it be, it can materialize in such a way that we also do attract more people.
Recently, at the SCIFT conference in Delhi, there was a big discussion around how limited tourist arrivals are a cause of concern for the industry and how our inbound tourism marketing needs to get better. I felt you were bang on when you just spoke about how there are so many phenomenal places to see in our country itself. I remember we used to have a great tourism campaign, Incredible India, which the government, for some reason, has decided to put on a back burner. Is there a role for a major private player like yourself to go to the ministry or even to MOCA and put forward a proposal for upping the ante as far as marketing is concerned? We are still below pre pandemic levels, I think, as far as inbound is concerned. More tourists would make everybody in the ecosystem happier, whether it is the airlines or hotels or airports.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right, but I think while we can go and make a pitch, I think uh, it's an area which will require persuasion. Perhaps we can only persuade. We can only make a beyond that. This is a national thing which they have to work on.
In a competitive aviation market, how does Hyderabad Airport differentiate itself from other Indian airports to position itself as an attractive hub for new airline partnerships?
There are two type of traffic. One is the organic one, which is normal, which is very close to the OND traffic, which is primarily the traffic which is generated from the region. So that traffic, I mean, Hyderabad being perhaps the only airport in Telangana and one of the major airports in this area, automatically that traffic would get through Hyderabad. And the transfer traffic, which is I just mentioned that we are doing pretty well, actually is something which is we have to work on in ensuring that we are able to work with the airline to ensure that our connectivity is better, that we are able to um, give a very good connect time. So what we do is for the domestic to domestic transfer, we do try to connect the minimum connect time of 45 minutes. Whereas with respect to the D2I and I2D also, we try to give good time. So D2I, we try to do within 75 minutes, and I2D, that's international to domestic, in 90 minutes. And I to I, we try to complete within 60 minutes. So these are the four different aspects of transfer we do, where the passenger, along with the baggage, is ensured to connect. So this is something which we have evolved and developed. And today, 27% transfer traffic. Hyderabad is one of the highest, perhaps. I think the only other station which has 27% transfer passenger is today Delhi. So that's a number which we are quite happy about. And the infrastructure we have created is such that the airlines are much more happier to do the connect over Hyderabad. So that's something which we will continue to provide. So that's a competitive advantage we have. Having said that, the other competitive advantage Hyderabad has is that it is almost located in the center of India. So it is able to, connecting between two destinations and with various destinations is possible. At the least, the disruption is least and the travel is better. The other thing is, which we have advantage is that we are an all-weather station. We do have good visibility through the year. I mean, and weather is good. It's very conducive for flying. So these are elements which we bring in, which is definitely a very good piece of the competitive advantage we put here. And last but not the least, we have significant headroom for growth. Today we are only at 29 million, and we can go all the way up to 100 plus million. So for an airline which is planning to set up a hub here, they can for definitely see a long-term future with us. So these are elements which we bring to the table.
Bengaluru recently started a few long haul narrow body routes. Do you see similar potential for the Hyderabad market also, Pradeep?
So as and more and more equipments come into India, which you're talking about the XLR and all that, 321, these will get more and more flights, and Hyderabad also will get its share of the new flights.
You have a MRO facility at the airport. How's that doing? Any plans to expand it further?
Yeah, it is doing exceptionally well. In fact, there's been a very interesting story in that particular MRO. When we started the MRO, we were one of the first to have started basically a base maintenance station for airframe MRO. And even our Indian carriers were very hesitant to come to us at that time because, you know, it's like taking your new Bugatti to a Indian showroom versus going to your authorized vendor. So it took some time for them to realize that we do a great job. And over the period, we have been almost 100% full. So interestingly, last year, 80% of our business was actually international. It is not domestic. So we have actually now an MRO for the world. We do significant amount of maintenance operations for international airlines, and we have close to 30 different certifications from, apart from the DGCA one itself, we have from FAA from US, we have EASA from the Europe, and various other countries, close to 27 odd other countries which have given registration. So we do service various different airlines from different geographies. I was being a narrow body MRO. We take care of the 737, 320 fleet, and the ATR and Q400. So that's something we keep looking at. And we also have a paint shop. If you would notice all the painting on the GRD for basically painting on the aircraft, or the all the new tails of Air India have been done by us. So we do a significant amount of work on the paint shop also. So our MRO is 100% full. In fact, we had to refuse business last year. This year also, it's only April. We have already turned down various aircraft who want to fly in because we don't have capacity. Having said that, we are embarking on an expansion, and we would be expanding it.
When do we get to know more about the expansion plans of the MRO then?
These are all documents. These are things which we need to get the board clearance. So therefore, I would not like to spell out more on this.
Your cargo business grew 22% year on year, mainly due to international cargo. What challenges do you foresee in scaling operations, and how do you plan to address them?
So you're right. The international cargo has grown significantly, and primarily driven by imports significantly. Almost we had a 38 or 39% growth in imports. So that's something which has happened. Having said that, we have embarked on an expansion for the existing terminal. The capacity of the existing terminal was to handle 150,000 ton, and we have done almost 168,000 tons last year. And we are already constructing a second cargo terminal, wherein a new operator will come. So there will be competition. So that is something which is going to be ready by July or August of this coming year. So once that is operational, and also our ongoing expansion would take the capacity to 3 lakh tons. So both put together, we should have significant capacity, close to 4 lakh tons, which will be required for the in this phase of the construct.
Another important conversation in the industry is around sustainability. What are your net zero plans, and what are your thoughts on SAF?
So as I was mentioning to you, the Hyderabad airport has recently, in the recently concluded ACI conference, been awarded the Level 5 accreditation, which is the highest level of accreditation given by ACI, Airport Council International, which is for the carbon reduction program or net zero program. So we have currently almost 98% achieved our target of net zero for scope 1 and scope 2. our entire airport power is from green sources, and we have a lot of the equipment are already converted into electric and CNG. So these are things which have already been done, so which are actually moving towards the net zero. And we have committed that by a particular year we will be net zero. So there are some of these things as a result of which we have already done that. We also have water recycling here, which is significantly good. Waste recycling, complete waste is being used in house to convert into the manure. So these are things which are already in place, and we have constantly been in the forefront on sustainability. On the last point about SAF, this is a government initiative which is being done, and the government of India has already said that 1% of the mixing will be there in the ATF shortly next year onwards, and thereafter they gradually will take it up to 5%. So, as far as I can understand, that same infrastructure what we have today will be able to handle this. So that's something which we are looking at, and we are looking to support this as we go forward.
Few months back, Manoj Chako of Fly 91 was on the podcast, and he mentioned how the support of airports is critical for expanding regional aviation in the country. Without naming any airport, he mentioned how some airports penalize and not fully encourage ATR operations, due to some myths, as he called them. What are your thoughts on regional aviation, and what is Hyderabad doing to encourage regional airlines like Star Air or Fly 91?
So we do support them in all the ways. They do come to us with the request for slots. They want to connect to destinations which are small destinations which are off the radar of the bigger airlines. So these increases the connectivity into our airport. So we do support them in a big way. Uh, the main challenge is that these are both the airlines you mentioned of they have a very small fleet and they're just growing in bits, but we do support them. So we don't see any challenges with them because especially we don't have a constraint of capacity, and these will add more destinations, which is good for us.
49% of GAL is owned by Groupe ADP. Have there been any learnings or best practices that have been implemented at Hyderabad, or any best practices from Hyderabad that have gone to other Group ADP or GAL airports?
So there are a couple of people who are actually come from the ADP group, and they are working as part of the corporate at the very senior level, and their inputs are received, and we have sent our teams to both Charles de Gaulle and Rosie, and we do pick up a lot of learnings. I mean, so it's a collaborative effort. I'm sure even things which are being done here would be perhaps taken up there. So we keep learning and we keep incorporating. There are some methods in which even the way we look at the future and all is something which they look at, and these are some things which we keep learning as we go along.
What, according to you, is the biggest challenge ahead for Indian aviation and its growth in the future?
So one big challenge which is likely to come to the Indian aviation is that as the more and more aircrafts are going to come in, the order book with both Indigo and Air India is significant. And over the next 10 years, if all these aircrafts start flying, uh, there will be a huge dearth of talent within India. For I mean, it's just not the airlines which require talent; it's the airports. Because we are going to be expanding to accommodate that kind of a growth, and that's something which we'll have to keep looking at. One of the ways of tackling this in the airport scenario could be that we adopt more and more technology where you're able to manage more with less resources. So that's something which we will do, but there will be a shortage of talent.
And is that something you keep talking about to Mocha, sharing your suggestions about infra and talent to help fuel the growth of the sector?
So we see this is something which even Mocha is aware of, and they are also working on it. And in fact, if you do recollect, I did mention the MRO. We have a school of aviation which is started last year. We had enrolled close to 134 students for an aircraft maintenance engineer program. This is the 10 plus 2 students who have taken science. So this is a very good career option which we have developed. Primarily, of course, it's something like a backward integration for us because this indeed does create the pipeline of talent we require. And with this growth of demand, with the need of constant supply of quality people, we have created this institute. And this should be able to do 174 odd people next year. So this is one thing which we do. But having said that, the government is actually aware of this thing, and they are looking at seeing how to further increase the skilled manpower availability for the industry.
As this show proudly represents AvGeeks in the country, there is always a request for a system to encourage plane spotting. For example, so many airports internationally have viewing decks. Can we expect something like that or other facilities in future at Hyderabad?
So, if you have actually gone around the Indian airports, you would see the wall around the airport, unlike internationally, it's not barbed fence, it's actually hard concrete walls. So the security requirement of our country is different from the security requirement of other countries, thanks to our neighborhood. So one reason why these high walls are there, along with perhaps even many of them being manned by security forces, is primarily given by the security concerns which we encounter. So having said that, I don't know. Maybe there's a possibility of possibly developing some spaces which are sanitized spaces where it is possible for people to watch the aircraft. But that's something which they'll have to work on separately.
Well, I do hope that you give some attention to that. And I would like to thank you, Pradeep, for giving time and being on the Indian App Geek.
Thank you.
Great conversation with Pradeep. Always good to know how airports function and the minds behind them. Next week, get ready to get cranky. And I would leave it at that. Here's another reminder that India's number one aviation podcast is now streaming on Jio Savan as well. So whether you prefer Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Pocket Casts or Amazon Music or any other podcast app for that matter, you can listen to the Indian App Geek every week. Alright, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your fellow App Geeks. Pradeep is not on X, but I am at Vishal Mehra. With that, keep your tray tables up, your seatbelts fastened. I wish you well and happy flying, my friends.